All right, I believe we are live. Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year, and welcome to Consciousness Conversations with Naren
Raj,
and
I'm not
Raj.
I'm not seeing you or me. I'm still seeing the cover page thing. There we go.
hmm
That's it.
I just like to show that at the beginning it's a little billboard for what we're doing here.
That's perfect. Perfect.
How are you, Pops? Happy New Year.
Hey, happy New Year to you. I am fine. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm very looking forward to our conversation today. You directed me toward a post that you did today on acceptance and freedom and peace, and just a lot of post-holiday stuff to download with regards to that. But I think that's really going to support. So I appreciate that. Um,
By
Anything
the
you want
way,
to
also
say? To
happy New Year to anybody who's out there listening. Happy
Yeah,
New Year.
Happy
I
New Year.
wish you joy and relaxation and expansion in the coming year.
hmm hmm So, just briefly, if you're new to our show, Naren and I discuss different topics related to consciousness and awareness. And we do about 15 to 20 minutes of us kind of riffing back and forth. And then we have some space for any questions that you might have. So, if you have those questions, just throw them in the Facebook chat. Give us any comments that you might have with the topics that we're talking about, and we'll do our best to get to those. And we love to start with a grounding exercise just to kind of get us into the mode of consciousness and away from what we were doing before. And we also encourage you to play with us if you're willing. Um, Rather than just watching, you can participate in the different things that we do today. Okay, Naren, would you like to get us grounded here, our first grounding of the year with this
Sure,
show anyway?
sure. Just sit up straight and close your eyes, which is what I say about many, many times in every process while you lead, because it takes us inward. If you sit up straight and close your eyes, the attention shifts inward. And when the attention shifts inward, we become aware of our interiority, the space, emptiness. And we can be aware of the breath, the rise and the fall of the breath. We say we breathe, but it's really breath breathes us. It's a miracle. It comes and it goes. Every breath is a miracle. It comes from nowhere. I mean, we know the mechanics of breath and how we breathe in air and breathe out CO2, but the existence of breath is a miracle. It's life. It brings us life with every breath. And then we let go of the old with every out breath. Just breath, noticing the breath. And when we notice the breath, the body automatically starts to relax. If we're watching the breath, we're in awareness, aware, because when we shift attention from the mind, the egoic mind, to the breath, we're shifting awareness. We're shifting our awareness to the breath. So it's simply awareness of the breath, witnessing the breath, presence to the breath. And because we're aware of the breath the breath doesn't fill our consciousness the way the mind does or can. We have awareness of awareness at the same time. We're aware of awareness at the same time we're aware of the breath. And so we're actually aware of both the breath and awareness at the same time. And that brings us into relaxation. It's just the nature of the body to relax when we're in awareness. And the breath relaxes with the body. and we slow down. And there is more space and relaxation and an awareness of that emptiness and space and silence. Beyond time and space, that awareness, that space. Beyond time and space. Vast emptiness. And breath rising and falling. The breath is our bridge to awareness when we use it as a bridge to awareness. Rising and falling, the breath. Awareness resting on the breath. Space. Relaxation. Presence. Witnessing the breath and awareness. Just witnessing. It's what awareness does. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you. Interesting. I was. What do you have to say about when you're thinking about, like when you meditate, do you have like insights even though you're endeavoring to not think, be engaged in your mind?
First, let me clarify. I'm not trying to not think when I meditate. If you're trying to not think, you're not doing a meditation practice. At least not one that works. Because the more we try to, if we try not to think, if we try not to have feelings, we're repressing, we're suppressing. And then those things will push their way back up. That's not helpful. What we're doing is simply observing, watching. When we don't give our energy to the thoughts, we don't identify with the thoughts. When we shift our attention from the ego, the egoic mind, with all of its tension and ideas and thoughts, endless, when we shift our attention to the breath, we free our awareness from the identification with the mind. We're disidentifying with the mind, shifting our attention to the breath. And hence our in-awareness, with our link, our connection being to the breath rather than the mind. And because the breath doesn't have thoughts, we can simply be aware of the breath as it rises and falls. And then that's the initial part of the practice. And that's actually the initial part of, you can use it to start Vipassana or with insight meditation. Then when we're in watching the breath, thoughts may come. And we can simply observe those thoughts. Watching the thoughts. Osho described it as like watching clouds passing by. Just observing, witnessing thought. A lot of teachers for beginning students say, when a thought comes, just say thought, so that you're actually bringing to consciousness that there is a thought, and then shifting your attention easily back to the breath. So there is thought, saying thought, not out loud, saying thought, and shifting the attention to the breath. When you say thought, you're simply identifying that a thought is happening and then shifting your attention back to the breath. It can be useful. Now, the mind attaches itself to fucking anything. I mean, if there's nothing new happening, the mind just goes. Now, the mind has several functions. One function is cogitation, which is its useful function. We can add 2 plus 2, or see whether they're left or right or whatever. That's cogitation. But the other part of it that is not particularly helpful is the neurotic part. Constant, I need to do this, I can't do that. Driven underneath that is fear and anxiety, which drives, Osho said the mind is completely composed of fear. That egoic mind. And so that's what's going on all the time. When we shift our attention back to the breath, we're shifting our attention from that egoic mind to the breath, and relaxation starts to happen. Because it's tension in the mind, relaxation in watching. So when you're meditating, if you're involved in a meditation practice like Vipassana, where you're watching, a thought comes, you notice the thought, shift your attention back to the breath. The thought can be some new insight for you. If it's some new insight, if you have a new insight, something happens, that insight will then form itself into a thought. It starts, it's just an understanding. We have an understanding. We're sitting there quietly or not. We're sitting there and then we get an understanding like, oh, holy shit, this mind is going all the time or whatever. So we can have an insight. Often insights come when we're sitting in silence. First, there's an understanding. And then essentially, instantaneously, the mind turns that insight into a thought, into a concept. Now, as with all concepts, the concept is not the understanding. If the concept is chocolate, it isn't chocolate itself, it isn't the experience of chocolate. It's a label we put on that combination of tastes and feeling and all that sort of stuff, and we call it chocolate. If you've never had chocolate and I say chocolate or it's a different language, you have no fucking idea. The same is true with the insights. The mind will turn the insight into a concept, which takes it out of the moment, out of reality, and into this concept. Just another thought to watch. We become enamored. We love insights. Our ego gets puffed up with our insights. This is fantastic. I have this new insight. I must be enlightened or something. But at least our ego loves new insights because then it can turn them into thoughts and somehow build them into a system that is still egoic. So when you're meditating, it's just another fucking thought. So you shift your attention back to the breath and carry on.
Simple.
Yeah, it is. But it's not so easy. It takes continued meditation, right? And it's hard because we're so fucking identified with the mind, and it's such an ingrained habit, especially the early life stuff, which may not even ever come to our consciousness. And that's really what drives the whole mind dance. So we're so identified with it. It really takes continued application. Meditation, and if you do the techniques I teach, those can help to weaken our identification with the egoic mind and strengthen our relationship to awareness.
So I wanted to delve into a little bit what you shared in your post around that your highest values are freedom and inner peace, and both can only occur where there is this acceptance. And there seems to be this interesting dance with the mind of how do you get the mind to be okay with, like how do you get the mind to actually accept? Because if you can't, I mean, maybe it's not getting the mind to accept is probably what you might say, but can you speak a little bit about that dance between the mind and acceptance?
Well, the mind cannot be in acceptance. that's like saying, can a fish be a neuroscientist? It's not its nature. The mind exists in duality. The very nature of the mind is duality. It's for and against. And in the level of emotion, on the level of all of that stuff that drives stuff, it's all fear. Like Osho said, it's all fear. So fear is always, and even if you get temporary relief from anything, the mind can't stay happy. The mind can't achieve peace because it's always dissatisfied with whatever is achieved. That is its nature. It cannot be otherwise. So what we have to do is create distance from the mind through awareness, which can relax the mind. Some of the techniques I use, and simply meditation itself, will over time relax the mind, create some space for us around the mind, create a reduction or a disidentification from the mind, and a greater relationship and awareness. And these things, this relaxation and freedom, exists in awareness. It cannot exist in the mind. Not the way I'm talking about it. Not in the sense of freedom and inner peace. Those just don't exist in the mind. The mind can relax a bit, but the mind is always the mind. Through some of the techniques I teach, or just through meditation, you can create some dissonant space for the mind and help the mind to learn to relax. But it's still going to be the mind. So it's still going to do what minds do. So the game, inner peace and freedom, are qualities of awareness. They're simply qualities of awareness. They don't exist in the mind. They are qualities of awareness itself. Acceptance is a quality of awareness itself, in the sense that the mind doesn't have any judgments. So its fundamental nature includes acceptance. So the more we learn to live in awareness and to be in awareness, or coming back to awareness, the more we can cultivate the space of acceptance. Inner peace is acceptance. Acceptance is inner peace. Freedom. The freedom I'm talking about is the freedom from the mind. Freedom from identification with the mind. It's all basic. It comes back to Buddha, Buddha's noble truths. The first noble truth is life is filled with suffering and ends in death, or something like that. I may not have all the numbers. And the second noble truth is the source of all pain and suffering is attachment, fear, and desire. So the relief from that suffering is awareness, inner peace, freedom. But it only is achieved by creating a disidentification, a weakened identification with the mind, and greater relationship to awareness. So it's weakening an old habit and generating a new habit, a new way of seeing things, of living.
I don't know if it's me or a function of the mind, but I think I've been trying to convince myself that I can be at peace and experience freedom in my mind.
Nope.
Yeah. That is a mind blower.
It's the nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not that you can't relax. It's not that the mind can relax somewhat. Osho said the mind makes a wonderful servant and a terrible master. As long as we're really identified with the mind the way we are, the mind is the master. We think we are the fucking mind. We think the mind is us. And so we're identified with it all the time, except for maybe moments where it just happened, but we're identified with it all the time. So it's in charge. And of course, since it's driven by the personality generated by a 4 or 5-year-old, it's infantile. And it's all fear and desire. And even if the strategies get polished up, they're the strategies of a 4 or 5-year-old. So it can't be otherwise. We can add some new programming. But it's always on top of the old programming. And it's new programming to relax a bit, new programming to let new programming and disidentification to allow our awareness, our essence, to become the master. And then we use the mind as a tool when we need. The rest of the time we just observe and watch and then act out of awareness. That's what meditation does. That's what my techniques teach.
And it seems like one of the most powerful things that you could do is learn to use the techniques in the moment.
Yeah, because we're countering.
Trying to figure it out.
We're countering. Well, as long as you can't figure it fucking out, as long as it's beyond the mind. These things are beyond the mind. We can use words like emptiness. We can use words like peace. We can use words like space and silence. But those are just conceptual descriptions of something that is vast, something that is beyond words, really. It's beyond concepts. It's a powerful and profound reality. So the mind's concept of it reduces it substantially. And that's the best the mind can do. Mm. Because when we truly become disidentified, whether we have a temporary relief called a satori, or whether we become when we become enlightened, then the vastness of this energy comes into us. It's already there, but it's allowed. We're creating an aperture that is, we're really opening the doors and the windows, even if for moments. And we're completely overwhelmed by the energy, by the silence, by the vastness, by the joy, by the bliss. And then the mind comes in, the fear comes back in if it's just temporary, and then we're re-identified with the mind. It's a long, long road. But it's the only, well, as Osho said, there are many paths up the mountain of awareness, but there's only one mountain. Awareness is awareness, and the only way of going deeper into awareness is by going deeper into awareness using meditation and these techniques. And there are other techniques as well, but meditative techniques. So that's it. That's how it works. And it takes
awesome.
Continued application over basically forever. I mean, until you get enlightened, if that happens. Most people just continue meditating until they're done. You can develop distance from the mind. You can develop distance from the triggering emotions. I used to be the most angry motherfucker anybody ever knew. And that's still in there. That conditioning is still in there. And anger still comes up. That sort of stuff comes up. But I have developed enough space that I don't choose to support it. I don't choose to give my energy to it because I see how destructive it is. Mm. I choose peace instead. I choose awareness. I choose compassion. which are all qualities that are available in awareness. I'm basically just choosing awareness. And I do that by continuously doing this again and again and again, doing this practice until now it's completely habitual. And like for other people, for people who do this work long enough, it becomes habitual. And there lies freedom. When it's no longer habitual and you can choose, then you are free because you can choose. And you can choose space, you can choose relaxation, choose compassion. Choose ultimately to choose acceptance.
This is all great. I have a lot of questions, but Daniela asks how to be able to reconcile life with meditation. The more I meditate, the more I feel far from the world around me. My values are changing. My way to see the world is changing.
Well, yeah. The world is nuts. The world is nuts, and it's driven by fear and desire. I mean, the planet, how many people, what percentage of the people on the planet are really working to transform the consciousness? The number is very large, but the percentage is pretty small. Think about it. Half of the people in this country voted for Donald Trump, and most of those people still think he's terrific. What sort of unconsciousness does that take? What sort of fear does that take to tell yourself that? I've often said the most amazing quality, I think the most amazing quality in the human mind is the ability to believe its own bullshit.
Say that again.
The most amazing quality of the human mind is its ability to believe its own bullshit. We can believe we're good people. We can believe we're good people while we're killing millions of Jews. We can believe we're good people when we are discriminating on the basis of race and gender. We can go to church. We can be good Christians at the same time that we are turning our back on the most fundamental needs of most of the planet. We can pretend the global warming isn't happening and believe it. That's fucking amazing, don't you think? We can disregard the obvious facts because they are not in our perceived self-interest. We can believe anything that is in our perceived best interest. And it's what's destroying the ability of the planet to support our species and a lot of other species. So Daniela, that's beautiful that you're feeling alone, that you're feeling less and less a part of the modern culture and society. Osho said one of the fundamental necessities to go into awareness is to be willing to be alone, because you go into awareness alone. Nobody else can make the trip by itself. Nobody goes with us. We're born alone. We're dying alone. When we close our eyes and meditate, we're alone. Although ultimately, as we become more and more alert and aware, we become more aware that we're all actually one. But the level at which we are all one, the level of vastness at which we're all one, is not the level at which this planet, which the human species on this planet is operating. The human species is driven by the ego in the individual and collective unconscious. There's more underneath that and above that, but that's what its driving force is. And as we go into ourselves, as we go into awareness, we go into transformation, we have to be willing to be alone. We have to, Osho said, embrace aloneness. And here's another one. He was not, people would think he was so beautiful and so loving, and he was. But he was also, as any master has to be, he was a tough guy. He said, embrace your aloneness. Avoid consolation. That's the path to freedom. That's the path to freedom. The path to freedom is, and that's what we're so afraid of being alone. It's driven by the early life fear that if we're alone and not taken care of, we will die. And since we still live that out, that's the fear, this primal fear that drives this fear. So the more we can know about those fears, the more we can really understand about how they're driven by the past and not about the present, and the more we can live in awareness and observe these things, that lies freedom. And when I say be alone, friends along the path are such a tremendous value. But your life, when you are noticing, Daniela, that when you go into this stuff, your life changes. You lose old friends and gain new friends. Because if people are not on the path, if people are not on a path of transformation, they will resent that you are. They will say, oh, you're changing. What happened to my old pal? You know, you gossip less, you are less negative, you're looking for the positive. People don't want that. People who are into the mind and the ego want to share that negativity. So the more you go into your heart, the more you go into awareness, you're going to, and again, it's just resonance, you know, it's vibration. You have to be willing to begin to go with the vibration, go with the flow, to find places that support your transformation, that support the you are becoming.
So I wanted to just dig in a little bit on that you said about the mind will believe
now we're out of time. We're out of time. We need to take questions.
Oh, I'm taking them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm taking them as they go here. I would like to ask one other question to build on what you said, but if you would like to end now, we can.
Yeah, I think we need to be clear between our conversation and the conversation to allow others and still deal with the reality of time on this level of reality.
Great. Okay, so if there are not any other questions, then we'll just wrap up for today.
Oh, if there are no other questions and you have one, feel free.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm watching the questions come in, and so we'll go until 1:40, and then if we'll just close at 1:40. So the question, so building on what you said about the mind can disregard obvious facts because they're not in our best interests, our perceived best interests. So often in relationship, requests from our partner are not in our perceived best interest, yet trying to be in relationship, we try to accommodate and move out of what we think is in our best interest, but we often do it from a place of resentment, or do it in a way that doesn't kind of nourish us, and then that can build up over time. And I'm just wondering what you might have to say about leveraging awareness, and also being able to nurture a relationship when your mind perceives a need from your partner as not being in your best interest. Not that it's a damaging thing necessarily, but maybe just something you don't even want to do, or something that you're too tired to do, for example.
So, again, there's no absolutes to this in the sense that Osho said that of 10 husbands, 9 are smart enough to be henpecked and do what their wife wants them to do. And 1 really tries to understand fully, and that man goes mad. I don't know if that's true, but there's something about in it that we need to be realistic. If you're going to be in a relationship, not just husband and wife or any relationship, there's give and take. So doing what we want to do all the time is just as infantile as refusing, as accommodating all the time. The thing is it's not what we do, it's where we're coming from. And when we're not doing, I want to take it to a different level. When we're not doing what we feel we really need, let's say you're exhausted. Let's say you're really exhausted and your partner wants to go to a party. And what you realize is you really need to rest and you have no energy to go to a party. But you don't want to trigger your partner, so you go anyway. It comes back to the willingness to be alone. Because why would you not do what you feel is best for you to do? You would not do that because you don't want to face the judgment and anger of your partner. And ultimately what's under that is the fear that your partner will leave you. That's what drives all of this stuff. The fear that you will be rejected. The fear that your partner will withdraw their love from you. Withdraw their acceptance. And on an infantile level, we're desperate for that love and acceptance, which is why we're in relationships. Osho said, most of them, there is love. But what there also is, I think we're going to go over just for a minute because I got to tell this story. It's one of my favorite stories. Somebody once asked Osho in one of his questions, said, Osho, I keep falling in love and getting my heart broken. That I do. And Osho said, well, first, you don't really know what love is. You know attraction, you know desire, you know need, you know fear, but you don't really know much about love. Real love is more about compassion, it's more about desire. He said, but every time your heart gets broken, it gets bigger. If you allow it. Every time your heart gets broken, it gets bigger. So, keep falling in love, keep getting your heart broken, and your heart will get bigger. So that
Awesome.
what he's saying is the capacity to love will increase. When we're hurt, and we've all been through a bunch of relationships, when we're hurt, and then we withdraw and we take a period of time licking our wounds, and then we jump back into the dance. It's not always that case. Some people get more and more rigid in what they're willing to allow and what they aren't, which means they are stuck in the same kind of relationships the whole life. But for people who have any awareness at all, any searching at all, which Osho was speaking to, you fall in love, you get hurt, you feel pain. Every time we allow ourselves to feel pain, every time we allow ourselves to feel pain, we release that pain and our heart gets bigger. Our capacity for compassion grows, which supports the expansion of our awareness. Because again, it's just love and fear. You could say love and fear, compassion and anger, and on up to awareness and unconsciousness. Okay?
I think that's enough for today, right?
Sounds good to me.
All right, awesome. So thank you everybody for joining us today. And if you'd like to learn more about Naren's offerings, you can go to narenconsciouscoaching.com and learn about his one-on-one coaching offerings, the workshops that he's offering, and also public speaking events that he's holding. And anything you want to add about that, Naren? Anything that's upcoming that you'd like to tell people about?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, can I say? Shall I say something about your stuff?
Sure.
Raj and I designed some of his fundamental processes together. And what Raj was after and what he has created is a business model that is based on the expansion and success of everybody involved. He's produced a 90-day game which allows you to look at what you want, see what's in the way, and then develop a monitoring system as you move toward developing what you want. And it works. It helps companies scale to develop what they're after, and at the same time, support the abundance and expanded consciousness of everybody involved. It's, I don't know if anybody else is doing quite the same thing, and it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And yeah, if you want to find out more about what we're doing or jump on a call with me, if you have a business that you're running or know somebody that does and wants to bring this work into the workplace, you can go to this URL or just go to my website, gotransformance.com, and schedule a call with me. So Naren, Pops, thanks again. You've transformed my day through this conversation. I have a lot more questions that I will ask in the future call, or maybe when we jump off here. So love to you, and thank you everybody for joining us today, or those watching the replay. We're doing more engaging on the Facebook group on different topics, and we'd love it if you engage in that conversation or ask questions there as well. Have a fantastic weekend, and once again, Happy New Year. Bye-bye, everybody.